Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Mediocre Military Scale Modeling. And today we're going to look at another model from Takom, one of my favorite companies when it comes to making interesting models. And today we're going to, I think this is the first Soviet or Russian tank we'll be looking at on the channel, and this is the T-55A. The T-55, very famous tank. I believe it's one of, if not the most produced tank in the world. It's was introduced in the 50s, I believe, and it's an iconic modern these days, modern Soviet tank that has been updated over time, and I believe it's still on the battlefield today in certain countries, usually in some sort of updated form. So this is the Takom T-55A. There were some earlier iterations, I believe, but this is the A iteration. There's also many versions after this that Takom makes kits of, but this is the more sort of vanilla T-55A. Now there's also the T-54, which is basically the same tank. There are some differences. There were differences in doctrine on how they were supposed to be used, but the biggest thing with the T-54, it has a little mushroom dome right here on the top that I believe is a vent. Now the T-55 has protection for nuclear, chemical, and biological agents, so that vent was removed. But that's usually a quick and easy way to tell if you're dealing with a T-55 or T-54. T-55 also looks strikingly similar to the T-62. Again, you could tell the difference by there will be a gap right here in this vehicle. T-62 does not have the wheel gap right here. So if you see the gap, you know you're dealing with some variation of the T-55. Alright, so enough of a little bit of history out of the way. This was the first kit I put together that I was worried. I felt so, and what I mean by that is this was a little more challenging than the kits I did prior to this. Looking at it now, I think it turned out really well. This is actually in my opinion, one of my best jobs putting a kit together. But when I originally did this, I was a little bit worried because, again, when I was doing a lot of like Hobby Boss and Tamiya stuff, this was a little bit of a step up as far as complexity goes. So I was really worried. I did the Panzer I, and that was a Takom kit, and that was a little more complex, but this is a much bigger tank than the Panzer I, and there was a lot more little things with it. So yeah, I was intimidated with this guy, but I think it turned out really well. So you get a lot of options in this kit. There's like Croatian and Czechoslovakian versions of this, and of course I went with the lamest, not the lamest, but the most bland, the monotone one, the Soviet one. The other one, like Czechoslovakian one, has this crazy like camouflage, and you can see the Croatian one here on the cover. It's got some camo, and it's got like a lot more color to it. It's got this big decal on the front. But I just wanted a vanilla Soviet T-55. Now part of that is that's just what I wanted. And I am interested in the Soviet-Afghan War, and that is what this is modeled after, a tank from the Soviet-Afghan War. And the other half of me was a little intimidated about doing the camo schemes, and I figured this would be the safest bet. But I don't regret it. I did want to go with something from the Soviet-Afghan War. One thing to note, in the kit, this tank, the Soviet-Afghan War version, it doesn't have this, I believe that's a Dishka anti-aircraft machine gun on top, but I was looking at a lot of images from the Soviet-Afghan War, and I seen a number of T-55s that had the machine gun on there, and I wanted to put it on there, so I put it on there. So, yeah, let's take a closer look at this. So like I said, I think I did a good job on this. Usually I'm like my own harshest critic, but I mean, there's no weathering really. There is some color modulation. You can see hopefully there. So I did try to do some color modulation, but there's nowhere I really messed up with this. I mean, there's a little bit of like rain marks and stuff, some streaking grime. Maybe the tow cable didn't turn out the greatest. It looks a little weird, and I was a little heavy-handed with the glue. So it looks a little stiff, but I mean, otherwise, I think I did a decent job on like the wood. Not to pat myself on the back too much, um, but yeah, I think I did a decent job on this. I don't think I messed anything up. Even the tracks, which were I think like individual pieces, I usually mess that up somehow, and they turned out okay. Now let's go with the color here. Now I used, this is one of my favorite colors for like after World War II, like Cold War era Soviet tanks. I really like this color. I will not be able to pronounce this correctly. Zashchilinti Zelino. I don't know. But I like this. This looks the part. Like when I think of 80s movies with Soviet like vehicles and like old, like this is the shade of green. But you can argue with someone like all day. You can make an entire, you can write a book on Soviet green, and the different tanks and like, and the different greens and color theories with Soviet vehicles and what green they used. But this is kind of my go-to green for Cold War Soviet tanks, and I like it. It has a nice look to it, almost like a little yellowishy tint, but I like it. I think it really looks the part. Again, this is pretty monochromatic. I tried to do some color modulation. I hope that comes across here. Some khaki here with the canvas. I think it looks pretty good. Not a lot of decal stuff here. Like that's basically it. That symbol, and then the 116 on the sides of the turret, and that's about it. But this is a really good kit. A lot of good details. Even right there, the fuel lines. Certain kits of like the T-55 from like Tamiya, and I think even Trumpeter, they don't even have the fuel lines there. So this is a more modern, sort of very detailed kit, and I don't know, I really like it. Alright, so let's talk about this kit itself. Like I've said in my prior videos, I'm really growing to really like Takom or Takom. It's a little bit more complicated than say your Tamiya or Hobby Boss kits, but I don't think it's too complicated. So not for beginners, but I think an intermediate modeler can handle it. I mean, if I could make this out of this kit, basically anyone that has a few kits under their belt will be able to build at least this Takom kit. And I would assume Takom kits in general. So I really like them. It has good detail, a lot of options in here. Like I said, I went with the more vanilla Soviet T-55A, but you don't have to. If you're a better artist than I am, you can go with like the Czechoslovakian version, which has like camo all over it and things like that. Good kit. It's a little on the pricey side, or at least for me, I think I overpaid for this kit. You can find it online for like $45 to $50 plus shipping. So it is a little bit more expensive than say some of those Tamiya kits that are like some of the older 70s Tamiya kits, but I think it's worth it. I think it's a good kit. I'm going to give it 3 stars, just because I think it's a good kit. I think the detail's good. Yeah, I even did a little bit of a exhaust there, but I don't think I overdid it there with like the soot and the rust there. But yeah, 3 stars. So how I think I did on this kit, like I said, I'm my own biggest critic, and I think I did pretty good, like better than I usually do on this. I don't know, this is one of my favorite builds. I really love Soviet era vehicles. I love Soviet tanks and stuff, so I really liked the subject matter here. I do plan on doing more of these kits and Soviet vehicles. And so just to recap again, I give myself 3 ratings here. We have an artistically inclined 5th grader could do better. Second rating is that good old college try. And then my best is certified mediocre. And the only thing I think I messed up, like the gun doesn't look great. I might have not did my best work on this machine gun up here on the roof. But other than that, roof or top the turret, I don't know the exact terminology. And there's a little bit of like the paint work, maybe right there. It's hard to see. It's not like perfect, but I think overall I did a pretty decent job. As usual, not a lot of weathering. I'm going to give myself a certified mediocre on this build. So this is probably one of my best works, even though comparatively to some of those pro scale modelers out there, this is amateur. But for me, I think I like this. I really like this tank. One of my favorites that I've built. So yeah, certified mediocre. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching.